Welcome back, listeners. We're diving into another chilling tale today.
Yeah.
It comes straight from one of our listeners. They wrote in about their experiences in a house they bought back in 2012. Imagine this, okay? You've just moved into your dream home, an old, beautiful, beautiful brick house.
Yeah.
And you're ready to give it a whole new life, but then you start to realize maybe it's not the house you thought it was. Maybe something else is living there with you. Luckily, we have our expert here to help us unpack this story. And maybe, just maybe, figure out what was going on in that house.
I'm always fascinated by these stories, the ones that get under your skin and make you question everything you thought you knew. They really tap into something primal in us. That fear of the unknown, that darkness just out of sight.
Okay, so picture this. You've just moved into this charming old house with your family.
Yeah.
You're busy, right? You're renovating, fixing things up, you're making it your own. Things seem pretty normal at first. But then,
Go.
almost without you noticing, things start to change. Our listener described these little things. At first, they were easy to ignore, like the oven knob. They had this brand new kitchen, and the oven knob would just turn off by itself. And they'd hear these strange sounds from the basement. But it's an old house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they just thought, free keeps. Or the foundation settling. Nothing too unusual. Or so they thought. What do you think, though? Are these just, normal old house quirks? Or could they be? Warning signs.
It's so easy to rationalize things like that, especially in an older home. But when you step back and look at the whole story, those little events, they start to feel different. It's like the quiet before a storm, this subtle buildup that makes the later events even more disturbing.
Yeah, it's like that feeling you get when you're walking alone at night and you could feel someone's eyes on you, even though you can't see them. That sense of being watched, of something unseen. And that feeling, it just gets amplified in this story because of what happened with their poodle. They had this poodle, Cupid, and imagine this, it's late at night, you're all in the living room, just relaxing, and suddenly Cupid starts growling. And not just like a little warning bark. This was a deep growl, like he was really threatened by something. Hackles raised, teeth bared, he was terrified of something.
Animals are so sensitive to things we humans miss, Like tiny shifts in the environment. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's something more paranormal. This incident with Cupid, it's like something straight out of a ghost story.
The listener said they even tried picking up Cupid, showing them there was nothing there. But he just whimpered and struggled to get down. Like he could see something sinister in those empty spaces. And it kept happening. They started hearing all these other unexplained sounds, too, like scraping in the sunroom and these really loud bangs that sounded like gunshots and footsteps in the basement when no one was down there. Can you imagine those sounds echoing in the dead of night? It would make your skin crawl, right?
Auditory phenomena like that, they're so effective in horror because they tap into our most basic fears. Our brains are wired to pay attention to sudden, unexpected noises, especially in the dark. A creaking floorboard, a whisper in the shadows, they make us feel like we're in danger, even if we can't explain it.
And then, things took a turn for the truly strange. Just imagine this, okay? You're in the kitchen making a cup of tea or something, and you see a chair start to move across the floor by itself. And not just a little nudge, but like someone is pushing it. A heavy, solid wooden chair. That's exactly what the listener's sister saw. And not just once either. It kept happening. She even tried putting the chair back, but it just kept moving, as if something was playing games with her.
The image of furniture moving on its own, it's so classic, isn't it? It suggests something is deliberately interacting with our world, something we can't see.
It's like this unseen entity is trying to make its presence known. Like it's saying, hey, I'm here, and I can move things around if I want to. And this feeling of being watched, it only got worse. The listener said they felt it constantly, like unseen eyes were following them everywhere, always just out of sight. They just couldn't shake this feeling that something was observing them, judging them, maybe even threatening them.
It's such a powerful feeling, isn't it? That feeling of being watched. It taps into our primal fear of predators, that vulnerability we feel when we're exposed, even in our own homes.
And then there's the attic. This is one place they never went into. It just felt ominous, full of unexplained noises and this sense of dread. Imagine lying in bed, trying to fall asleep, and you hear these muffled sounds coming from the attic above you. Is it the wind? An animal? Or something far more sinister?
The attic, it's such a potent symbol in horror. It's the unknown, the hidden, the place where we store our forgotten memories and our darkest secrets. In these stories, the attic often becomes a place where fear takes shape, a breeding ground for anxieties and nightmares. And as our listener was describing these events, it really makes you think about the power of suggestion, doesn't it? The way our minds work, just imagining those shadowy spaces, hearing those sounds in your head, it sends shivers down your spine.
It really does. And it gets even creepier because then our listener shared an experience that takes this whole story to another level of terrifying. Okay, so imagine this. You're in bed, you're just drifting off to sleep, and suddenly you hear these footsteps, heavy boots, walking towards your bed. They're slow, deliberate, menacing. You freeze. Your heart's pounding, right?
Yeah.
And you just know someone's standing over you. But when you open your eyes, nothing. No one there.
That would be terrifying to have that kind of direct encounter with the unseen, you know? Especially in your own bedroom, it would really blur the line between reality and nightmare.
The listener said they were so freaked out they actually checked with their siblings, like, did one of you come in my room? But everyone said no. And here's another creepy detail. The sister's dog, Molly, would constantly growl at her closet. Like something was in there. It's like these dogs could sense something we couldn't.
Yeah, this whole thing with the dogs reacting to empty spaces, it definitely suggests something unseen was there. Maybe it was even concentrated in certain parts of the house.
It's like the dogs were trying to warn them, like guardians, protecting them from something they couldn't see. And then there was the knocking. They'd hear this knocking on the sister's door frame, but every time they checked, there was no one there.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was it just a random sound, the old house settling? Or was it a deliberate attempt at communication?
It's a chilling thought. And as if things weren't strange enough already, the basement lights would always turn off by themselves, even when they just switched them on. Imagine that. You're down in the basement doing laundry and suddenly, darkness.
Yeah.
You fumble for the light switch, flick it on, but then a moment later, they go out again. It's like something is playing games with you, messing with your head.
That's right. This manipulation of the physical environment, it takes things to a whole new level. It's not just sounds or feelings anymore. Now it's a tangible manifestation, like this force is interacting with their world.
And then comes the revelation that throws a whole new light on everything that's happened. The listener found out from a neighbor that the previous owner of the house, he had died by suicide in the basement. He had shot himself multiple times.
Wow. This revelation adds a whole layer of tragedy to the story, doesn't it? And it might actually explain those gunshot-like sounds they were hearing. It makes you think about the energy of places, you know, whether a traumatic event can leave some kind of imprint, a residual haunting maybe, like the very walls are holding on to the memory of what happened.
And remember those bloodstains on the bed sheets? Could those have been from the previous owner? It's such a disturbing detail. So we have this house, right? Full of unexplained events, this feeling of dread, and now this tragic backstory. What does it all mean?
That's the question, isn't it? Are these occurrences just echoes of that tragic event? Is it the previous owner's energy somehow trapped in the house? Or is it something else entirely? Something more malevolent?
The listener even mentioned that they don't remember everything that happened in that house. It's almost like their mind was blocking it out.
That's not uncommon with trauma, actually. The mind has a way of protecting itself from things that are too painful or disturbing to process.
It's like their subconscious was saying, nope, too much. Let's just forget about this.
Exactly. And this brings up another fascinating aspect of these stories, the role of personal experience and interpretation. What might be terrifying for one person might not even face someone else.
So how do we make sense of this? How do we reconcile the rational, scientific part of our brains with the part that wants to believe in the supernatural, that wonders if there really is something more out there beyond our understanding?
Maybe it's about embracing that unknown, admitting that there are things we may never fully understand. These stories, whether we believe them or not, they make us confront the limits of our perception, and they force us to question what we consider real.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Are these ghost stories, these hauntings, are they more than just, scary stories? What if they're our way of dealing with our fears? Like a way to face the unknown?
I think there's something to that. These stories, they often tap into our deepest anxieties, don't they? The fear of the dark, of being alone, of losing control. And by sharing them, by talking about them, we kind of take away some of their power.
Yeah, like shining a light into the darkness. Suddenly the monsters aren't so scary anymore.
Exactly. And in a way, they can be comforting too. They remind us that we're not alone in these fears. If other people have experienced these strange and unsettling things, well, maybe it means we're not crazy for getting spooked by an old house or a creaking floorboard.
And it's not just about fear, is it? There's also this sense of wonder, of curiosity. Like we want to understand what might be out there beyond what we can normally see.
Absolutely. They tap into our natural curiosity about the unknown. That fascination with the mysteries of the universe. They make us question what we know and imagine possibilities beyond what we can see and touch.
So what do you think? If you were in our listeners' shoes, experiencing all these creepy things. How would you react? Would you try to just ignore it and hope it goes away? Or would you have to investigate to try and figure out what was happening?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It would depend, I think, on my personality, my beliefs, the specifics of the haunting. But there's a part of me, I have to admit, that would be drawn to the mystery. I'd want to know.
Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe these stories are an invitation to explore the unknown, face our fears, embrace the mystery. They remind us that there's more to the world than what we see. And sometimes the most unsettling experiences, well, they can lead to the most profound insights. So next time you're in an old house and you hear a strange noise, don't just brush it off as your imagination. Take a second. Think about the possibilities. Embrace the mystery. Ask yourself, what if? You might just uncover a story worth telling. Thanks for joining us with this deep dive into the unsettling world of hauntings. And remember, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those lights on. Until next time.